or just like something more at least. So
I don't know anything about that. All I know is I don't know anyone that actually has money that does this crypto thing. But I don't know. I don't know
I see.
anything.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. All I know is every time somebody mentions it, they shut it down.
Right.
Every time so
This
I'm
whole
not
dog coin thing or Dogecoin, I still don't know how it's pronounced, uh, was a big deal because a lot of my coworkers at my other job, I work at Costco, as you know, a lot of my friends there are into it, and they were like, they made this big deal about Saturday Night Live, how I guess Elon Musk hosted it, and he was going to say something about the cryptocurrency, and they were waiting to see if the price was going to go up or down, or
it dropped 30%.
right, it dropped 30%, and I don't know. That just seems risky to me. Putting a whole lot of money into, obviously, a
Risky.
whole lot of. Yeah, I don't know.
Risky's an understatement, bro. It drops 30%. That's the
Yeah.
Why would you? I just told you put away 40%. It's done.
Right.
I don't know.
Understand.
I don't know. I'm not an expert.
I don't understand what cryptocurrency is still. I've been told it's something like a never-ending problem that's being solved, like a number problem, and like the more money that goes into it or something like that, it's like getting closer to solving the problem.
All I know about is
I
this,
wish I
baby.
could solve my problems.
I don't know about
Oh,
nothing.
that's nice.
Crypto,
That's a
dog.
nice one.
I'm analog. I'm old.
That's cool. Wawa bars are where it's at.
Yeah, actually, I got a whammy bar on that beautiful Carlos Santana from PRS.
Very nice.
Yeah, no, I'm analog, dog. I don't know nothing about no doji, nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
All I know is get some money for a down payment and rent it out, and have the renter pay the loan, and you're getting equity.
Real estate stuff.
Whatever money you like, that's all. Like, because I'm simple, dog. I don't know any of this stuff.
I know.
Dogecoin.
Yeah, I'm gonna research it sometime.
Elon Musk is probably like, I've never been so amazed by somebody that is so like just. Bleh.
Well, you know how like we all kind of think, or at least intuitively think somehow, that like hyper geniuses, people who are just like super creative, have like a little something not wrong necessarily, but well, he admitted that he has Asperger's syndrome, which is on the autism scale, I think. So I was like, oh wow, that
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I didn't watch the Saturday Night Live episode, but I read about it, and
our politics definitely don't align, he and I. But I can respect somebody that gets people to space for sure. No question.
Yeah.
No question. I'm reading this book this week. It's been absolutely mind-blowing, man. It's the
East-West Street.
It's the life story. It's the life story of the lawyers, the professors who came up with genocide and crimes against humanity as crimes for the Nuremberg trials after the fall of the Nazi regime.
How did you find that book?
I don't know. I'm
recommendation,
sure
or you just
I'm
looked
sure
it up?
An algorithm.
Probably. Right.
I remember how. A lot of the books that I gravitate to are recommended on Fareed Zakaria's GPS 360 show on Sundays. It might have been that. It might have been one of the book recommendations.
Cool.
Should we do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do this.
All right, so we can start off.
We're coming back pursuant to the request of the students.
We got it. The number one rule of journalism.
I had a sense this was too much for them with the reading and the writing.
Right.
And then one of them last week was just like, "What happened to This Week in Peace?"
We got to give the people what they want. The number one rule of journalism. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll try to. Deutsche World,
Germany.
Deutsche. Guten Morgen. Lawyers file suit against Belarus Lukashenko in Germany. A group of Belarusians are seeking justice in German courts against Lukashenko's regime over alleged torture. Their lawyers say there are at least 100 other victims.
Good. So this underscores one of the key components of what we learned this semester, which is the idea of universal jurisdiction under international law. So we will find Germany as one of the few countries in the world whose courts have been open to the idea of universal jurisdiction. And so we have a fora for resolving human rights violations other than international permanent courts or temporary international tribunals like the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia or the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. So the idea of universal jurisdiction, the idea that actually it's one of the core concepts that's here in this brilliant book, and that's the tension between are international human rights laws protecting an individual, or are international human rights laws protecting a group? The second question, are you allowed to bring a nation state to a court as an individual pursuant to your international human rights laws, or must a state challenge a state? Good. And those questions were resolved over time. Obviously, individuals have authority and rights under international law. And one of the ways that we pursue in national court systems cases of international law is through the concept of universal jurisdiction. And this is a current case that opens that up for us. Good.
Why Germany?
Why Germany? Well, Germany has a very progressive court system. Obviously, Germany is the arena for was the arena of the Nazi regime. International law, especially genocide and crimes against humanity, came to fruition as an attempt to bring Nazi leaders to justice, regardless of how eventually that those trials turned out. I say that because obviously there was a death penalty to those trials, but today there is no death penalty under international law. That's the only thing that I'm saying about that. I mean, that's the only caveat to that process. But since the Nazi regime, Germany has been a country that is at the forefront of rights, at the forefront of tackling white supremacy, at the forefront of combating the availability of propaganda that catalyzes extremists and extremism. Another thing about Germany, obviously, is that it's a Western developed nation. It has the transparency of governance and judicial systems to be able to handle this kind of a thing, as well as, of course, the financial ability to handle this kind of a thing. And Germany has been led by Angela Merkel for the recent history, and she really has emerged as one of the most influential global leaders when it comes to reinforcing the international system, be it regionally within Europe or globally. So all these things matter. All these things influence where those who are wronged take their claims.
Okay, yeah, you explained it a lot better than the guy in the short video in the article did. Because I was still kind of thinking like he didn't really answer that question too clearly.
Thank you.
Okay, that was great. Okie dokie. Next, moving on, still with DW. This article is titled U.S. aims to mediate Russia-Ukraine conflict. Germany and France have acted as peace brokers between Russia and Ukraine for years. Now, U.S. President Joe Biden has thrown his hat into the ring as well.
Look at the difference. Everybody, obviously, in my international law class, studied the Vice series, Russian Roulette, and the writing this semester was about international human rights issues, legal issues specific to Russia and Ukraine. And throughout that series, you see the impact of no US leadership. You see the impact of the Trump administration looking the other way, the Trump administration taking Vladimir Putin's word for things. And you saw the ability of Russia to bring in their militias without any identification, to bomb cities, to finance their own militias and call them the whatever Donetsk People's Republic or whatever. Good. The absence of the United States in international conflicts as a mediator generally tends to enhance, bolster the level of conflict that exists. Now, I understand the war in Iraq. I understand Afghanistan. I understand America's not great. I understand we're not perfect, etc. But generally, when there is an arbiter that again, you're going to comment me on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I get all that. Generally, when there is an arbiter that reinforces some sort of an ethical system that's grounded in law, there will be less death. There will be less breach of international law as it relates to individual rights. There will be less breach of sovereignty, etc. So now what do we see? We see a Secretary of State who is actively engaged in what is happening, bolstered by the power of the president to bring these two sides together. There's no posturing, there's no pretending, there's no blustery statements. There is an offer to mediate and bring the sides together. Easy answers: arm the Ukrainians, have them go to war with Russia. Those are easy answers. Turn the other way, let Vladimir Putin do whatever he wants. Hard part of international policy, hard part of international stability is bringing conflicting parties together and trying to negotiate something that enhances the benefit of the people who are caught in the middle of this mess.
Okay, moving right along. From the BBC News, why Colombia's protests are unlikely to fizzle out. Dozens of people have died since a wave of protests started to sweep across Colombia on the 28th of April.
Give us a little bit more.
So how did these protests start? The demonstrations started initially in opposition to a tax reform, and then I'm pretty sure when the Colombian president went back and said that they were not going to do this. Essentially, the movement had already started demanding more funding for healthcare, education, other basic things. And now it looks like people have been shot, killed.
Good. Number one problem that we have in Latin America: femicide. Femicide is the killing of women, generally by men who are in close proximity to them in their lives. Number two problem that we have throughout Latin America is a lack of good governance, a lack of transparency in governance. One of the features of a lack of transparency in governance are out of control militaries and out of control police forces or government affiliated militias, etc. Good. Generally, when countries that are not free, countries that are not transparent, countries that are not stable enhance taxation of citizens, they are going to spend that money either on corruption among individuals at the top, or to enhance the ability of the police forces and military to control the population within the country, right? So you have economic catastrophe, a pandemic because of COVID, among the highest rates of unemployment in the world, among the highest rates of femicide, women being killed in the world, extrajudicial killings by police, not to mention drug trades, narco trafficking, governments in cahoots with all of that. And then you want to tax me more, right? Even though we have no money, in order to do what? To enhance your ability to oppress me. Good. And what we need to remember here, I think, is when people go to the streets, it is a method of final resort. Generally, when people go to the streets, when peaceful people go to the streets, it is their method of final resort. Now, when governments kill those people, that is also a method of final resort for those governments. No government wants to kill 1,000 protesters in a square. No government wants to do that. It is not in their interest in any way to do such a thing. But the litmus test for knowing the value of going to the street is that these people are willing to kill you to get you off of the street because you're speaking the truth. Good.
Yeah, so it looks like the president has not or will not be meeting the protesters. One of the top main demands, which is to dismantle the riot police. But he's countering by saying that you will be in a tweet. He said that we know of your demands and proposals, and there will be a space to hear you out and talk about the issues worrying you. Let's get together and reach concrete solutions quickly. So he says.
Yeah, hey, at the very least, he's saying, right? At the very least, they got a response.
Next up, we have a piece from the BBC. It is some visual journalism. It's a collection of photographs, photography from inside of North Korea, which is pretty fascinating. This guy was one of the few people ever to be able to stay, a foreigner to stay within Pyongyang for, I believe he was there for 60 days. And his story about being in there, essentially being followed everywhere and being told what you can and cannot take pictures of. Despite those restrictions, he was still able to get some really moving photos. So this piece here is really interesting.
Like this idea of like he was like in a hotel, nobody else is on the floor. There's a government person at the elevator, there's a government person downstairs, there's a government person here and there. So the idea is when you go to North Korea, the North Korean government has a specific hotel that you stay at. They manage your presence while you're on the ground the whole time. Specific restaurants you're allowed to go to. You go to the same schools. They do the same like kids shows, whatever. And he was talking about how like he was the only person in the audience. And they did a show as if like it was an audience of 1,000 people. This kind of very dystopian comic book like reality is an extreme example of a phenomena that exists in most of the world where there is not political freedom and good governance, which is the choking of information coming in and going out, coming in and going out. So the people on the inside, they have no idea what's happening outside of their nation state. I understand North Korea is an extreme example. Eritrea is another extreme example. And the people outside have no idea what's going in. What's fascinating about this piece is he saw things that he wasn't supposed to see because the driver kept getting lost. And so he was able to take pictures of people working in the rice fields, and he was able to take pictures of poverty, and he was able to take pictures of a morning commute. And it's just amazing to get like a glimpse into a world that is completely controlled by a government. Absolutely amazing. Because really, we don't understand the value of the freedom that we have until you see its opposite.
Yeah, freedom is privilege. Let's see. Next up from Sky News, Russia's obliteration of dissent.
This is the piece about Navalny's team.
Right, Alexei Navalny, huh?
You want to give us a paragraph?
Let's see. Outside a Moscow courtroom on a Monday morning in late April, a group of students bustled around a set of benches, leafing through great stacks of paper and arranging them into piles. On each sheet was a signature vouching for the character of their friends. All were under house arrest and facing charges for allegedly encouraging minors to participate in an illegal protest.
Good. Here we go. When there is opposition to dictatorship, the first thing that will happen is the internet will go out. The second thing that will happen is we will limit the number of people that can gather in the public square at the same time. The third thing that will happen is all phones will be tapped. The fourth thing that will happen is any non-governmental organization or nonprofit that receives foreign funding, no matter how boring that foreign funding is, will be accused of treason towards the government. Remember, Vladimir Putin had two primary opponents in the post-Yeltsin era. The first was killed on a bridge in front of the Kremlin. The second is Alexei Navalny, who was poisoned, got out of the country, got treated, came back voluntarily to the country, got arrested, went on hunger strike for 40-something days. This story is the story of how Alexei Navalny's nonprofit is now illegal in the country. Good. So if everything is run by the same dictatorial machine, very easy for you to get the judiciary to designate an organization as a terrorist organization, designate an organization as whatever you want to designate it as, leading to the instability of the security of the nation, whatever, offending the leader of the whatever. And so what do? You criminalize that nonprofit. So what follows from that? Everybody that works for that nonprofit, every bank that banks with that nonprofit, every leader of that nonprofit, they are all now treated as though they are criminals. And so they're arrested and they're put away, etc. Good. Navalny was like, no, I don't want to put my people through that. So as soon as they got wind that a couple of the leaders got arrested, they decided to start dissolving everything. So then the Russian government criminalized everything. Navalny is still in prison. But now we're not just going after the leader, we're criminalizing the entire movement through the kind of conspiracy of illegitimate government. Good.
Very good.
That's the world, bro.
That's it.
That's
right now, and it's still turning. It's still
Amen.
Turning as we speak.
Do we know where the Chinese rocket fell?
Somewhere in the Indian Ocean.
Okay.
Is what I think they think it fell.
Good.
Yeah.
Back during slavery, there was two kinds of slaves. There was the house Negro and the field Negro. The house Negro, they lived in the house with master. They dressed pretty good. They ate good because they ate his food, what he left. They lived in the attic or the basement